Nicolas Cage, he plays this hot shot.
There we go. Innovative uses of duct tape.
Hey guys, it is Sunday night, and we are once again here live at Famous Faces and Funnies, and we are going to be talking about Superman Through the Ages, which is going to encompass all the comics, movies, video games, and various incarnations of the character. And tonight with me, as usual, is Brandon.
Hey guys.
All right, and he's going to be talking about Superman and video games, and of course, the provider of this lovely venue, Rick.
Hello.
Right? He'll be discussing the comics, and then we have actor, improviser, comedian, and all-around brown person, Fawad.
Nate, tonight you must refer to me by my true name, Fowl L of the House of Wad.
Fowl L, like as in chicken fowl?
No, Fowl F-A-W dash L.
Fowl L. Okay.
Don't be a
I
douche.
just had to clarify that. Okay. So
My true name, I recently learned my true heritage, Jose. I'm happy to say.
I'm sure we'll get into that shortly. But
Pretty awesome. Spoiler alert. It's pretty awesome.
so
The stuff I found out.
So Superman's been around for a long, long time, starting in 1938 in the Action Comics. And in researching the stuff for the show, I actually learned some stuff that I didn't know about the character itself. Like nobody wanted him in the beginning. Like they couldn't sell Superman. That just sounds absurd to me. The idea that Superman doesn't sell is not something that computes. So to find that out, it's interesting. But most of the stuff I'm going to be talking about involves the Superman on screen. Starting with the Superman movie in 1948, we had Kirk Alyn, who was the first actor to portray him in the cape costume. Then also in 1950, he was in Atom Man versus Superman. Then the Superman that everyone believes is the first Superman is George Reeves, who was in The Adventures of Superman. And that was from 1952 to 1958. And he was also in Superman versus the Mole Man. And I actually spent a lot of time watching that show, but the Superman that really got me engaged in the character was really Christopher Reeve. Christopher Reeve, 1978, Superman the movie. As people say, you will believe a man can fly. I loved this movie. I was 6 years old, and it engaged me in a way nothing really had before. And I'm going to say something that might sound a little sacrilegious here. Even Star Wars didn't engage me the way Superman engaged me at that age.
It's all right. It's okay.
Where's my pen so I can stab you?
Superman had a really big impact on me.
Even Superman 4?
No, Superman 4 doesn't exist.
No, that's pretty good. Check that one out.
Then after a while, they came out with the John Hames Newton Superman, Superboy.
TV show.
Right? It was a TV show, and that had 3 seasons. But John Hames Newton was only in it for the first season. Second and third season was Gerard Christopher, who was someone I'd never heard of before. I've actually never seen the show.
What?
I only saw a couple episodes.
Yeah, I've never seen a single episode of this show.
It was pretty decent. It was filmed in Orlando, so it's fairly close.
Right?
Nice.
So then after that, we didn't have any. We had 1989 through 1991. Then we went with Dean Cain's.
I did see all of that.
Lois. I saw all of that as well.
Right.
But that was kind of like a different kind of Superman. It was more like a romantic comedy type thing. They tried to sex it up a little bit.
It was, and there was also some ridiculousness with it. I remember one episode he shook himself so fast he could deatomize himself to go through like laser
So he was in the Flash.
force field.
Yeah, they do that. in comics.
It was dumb.
Right. So Dean Cain, and I actually really like Dean Cain as Superman.
I
Even
did
though
too.
people make fun of him. People make fun of the Dean Cain Superman. I had no issue with him. At the time, I thought he was a really good show. Then, the show that I really, really, really love to hate is Smallville. Tom Welling.
I like him as Clark Kent.
I like Tom Welling, but when I say I loved to hate this show, I'm fascinated with the idea of what super people do when they're not being super, right? So some of the stuff they did in that show, like he'd walk around getting ready for school and he'd make toast with his eyes. I have to believe someone with those powers would do this stuff. And I think it's really interesting to find that stuff out. But it also gave us the ability to see him as someone that you can relate to. Going through things that we went through during that time, and I really enjoyed that aspect of it. I hated the cheesiness that he got his S from the high school mascot.
But he didn't. They kind of went back and fixed that.
You can't fix something it's just too stupid.
Well, so is spinning around the world to reverse time.
Hey! You watch what you're saying. You watch your dirty mouth, son. Talk about Christopher Reeves that way.
Just saying.
No, I really did enjoy the show, but there was just what they did to the continuity was unforgivable.
Well, I mean, they had Doomsday on the show. I mean, so yes,
Yeah,
they had Doomsday before he was Superman.
You might as well say, you want a Justice League movie? It's called Smallville, because they already did all that stuff.
Right.
So that was from 2001 to 2011, 10 years, incredibly successful show. And then we had the Superman Returns, or as I like to call it, the franchise killer.
Yeah, Superman
there
versus
was
the
what?
helicopter.
Brandon Routh.
Who? What?
The guy that they had to digitally edit out his package because it was too big.
Really?
Yes. Yeah.
Wow.
DC was like, you can't put that on screen. so they had to tone
You know
down.
what? Now I'm
Wow.
curious
Yes.
enough to
Wow.
see a unedited.
Yeah, they
Really?
have to tone down the crotch area because
That's
Brandon
pretty
Routh's a little too manly.
That's pretty super common, man.
Yeah. And then we go with the current incarnation of Superman, which is Henry Cavill, who really surprised me. I expected the worst from Man of Steel, and I was really surprised. I actually really enjoyed the movie, even with its flaws. I'm not saying it's a perfect movie, but I think it was a really good first effort in a reboot. So those are all 9 actors that have portrayed the Man of Steel on screen in the suit. Now, I do want to put one qualification on this. Tom Welling never actually got shown in the entire suit.
No, only.
They wouldn't let him
Right.
do that.
No, like I said, I kept reading that it was him who refused because of the curse.
That is not what I heard. I saw an interview with the show creators, and the two things that they said their mantra was no tights, no flights. Right? So they wanted Superman to be grounded, essentially. And they said that the moment they put him in the blue suit, he's not their character anymore. Right? So they didn't feel like if they did that, they could take the liberties that they took with the storytelling. Maybe he did refuse after, because they left in season 7, I think.
Right.
Yeah.
So maybe at that point they were like, "Oh, let's put you in the suit," and he was like, "Oh, hell no." But
I mean, but realistically, it's a pretty weird curse if it causes one dude to shoot himself and another dude to fall off a horse.
Well, and
a pretty
one man,
random
and
curse.
one man to kill his career.
Huh?
Right.
yeah,
Yeah, Brandon Routh's still alive. He ain't dead.
I mean, Dean Kane's career is.
No, Dean Cain is he's up there getting his work.
he's like in Ripley's Believe It or Not.
Ripley's
Yeah,
Believe It or Not.
come on.
That's high quality television, man.
Yeah, I'm sure
But,
it is.
But there's from my understanding, there's some things that Fawad has to say about.
Oh, Fawel,
Fawad,
the House of Wad.
from the House of Wad.
Fa-
Hey, yo, I'm
Fawel
adopted,
Wad.
son. I'm adopted, baby. Yeah, we. So my parents broke it to me that I'm from a different planet, and I'm waiting for the powers to kick in. But it explains a lot about me, about my outsider nature, my religious minority status. Yeah, I'm impervious to bullets. I've never been shot at or anything, but they told me I'm impervious to bullets. Yeah. So anyway, I changed my outfit, which brings me to the serious subject of my talk, which is the importance of underwears on superheroes. Okay. As you can see, I'm dressed in my traditional superhero garb now, which I learned is the traditional dress of my people. Is this? Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Now, there's an anti-underwear campaign going on in the media in America right now that says that all superheroes must wear wetsuits and fucking leotards and shit. I am against this. Okay, America, you need to understand that you've been co-opted by the corporate elite who have bought all your comic book companies and are trying to take our superheroes out of their underwear. Superheroes were inspired by strong men and circus performers, and that's exactly what they are supposed to be. A super strong wrestler, okay? Walking around, picking up cars and throwing shit. I'm telling you right now, if I got up in this outfit and I went outside and picked up a car and I threw that shit, you would not be like, oh my God, that guy's got underwear outside of his pants. And then if I started to decide to fight crime, you wouldn't, the criminals wouldn't be, if I bust through a wall, right? And I bend a gun barrel in half and bite a bullet out of the sky, right? And flick a dude. Then I'd be like, oh, your underwear is silly, haha. No, they'd be like, holy shit, what did that guy do? It's like when you go to the circus right now and there's a strong man there, they still exist, and they like pick up a baby elephant and climb up a ladder. You're not like, oh, look, that guy's wearing a ancient Roman gladiator. No, that's.
Actually, I would.
You're an idiot, though, Brandon.
I'm an idiot.
No, you.
How many comics do you own again?
I own 30,000, but in this case, that is a good thing. So my point, America, is that don't be stupid, right? Learn to suspend your disbelief. Not everyone needs to wear body armor and crap. Okay, if Batman's gonna fight a guy with a gun and a bullet.
Whoa! This is not a Batman
Yeah,
show?
whatever. Superman is impervious. The people at the Olympics still wear tights. Look at those bodybuilders and heavyweight lifter people.
Tights, but not
Tights.
underwear on the outside.
The same thing. Whatever. It's trunks.
It
It
is
started
not
out
the
as
same
trunks.
thing.
It started out as trunks. The point is, Superman has looked the same way for 75 years. You don't need to fix the way Superman looks. He's a cartoon character. Fine, when you turn him to real life, you can do whatever you want with him to an extent. But even that, no. Christopher Reeve looks perfectly fine in his underwear outside his pants, as does every other Superman. No. 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 So that's all I'm trying to say.
So you have some feelings about this.
Yes. Super. And also, DC Comics, you're hypocrites. Because you took all the dudes' underwears off, but the ladies are still just walking around in their underwear. Wonder Woman's got her underwear on. Starfire's got her underwear on. What the hell is that? Supergirl's got her everyone's got their underwear on. All the ladies.
Maybe it's to draw less attention to the crotch.
Of the men?
Sure.
But, well, I mean, he's impervious. So
I mean, you had the problem apparently with Brandon Ruth where his junk was too big. Maybe they just don't want to draw that attention anymore.
But see,
No, I'm gonna need time to think about that.
Shouldn't it be like, the guy's got super junk, right? There's
would
nothing
also be
not
impressive.
super about this character.
Also, finally, to conclude my argument, I went outside just now to the can I say the Subway store's name?
Hey,
It's a store that sells
Keep
Subway
this
sandwiches. It's a store that sells Subway sandwiches.
Right.
I went over there like this, and I purchased my Subway sandwich. And the lady said, "Thank you, sir. Would you like anything else with that? Chips and whatever drink?" I
Did she
said,
have
"No,
a
thank you."
big
And I
smile
left.
on her
No,
face,
no
like she
smile.
was about
Totally
to
normal
laugh?
interaction. So this does not distract people or cause them to treat you in any goofy way. Superheroes should be wearing their underwear outside their pants. Thank you.
I think a lot of superheroes would disagree.
So we got his thing out of the way.
I did. I feel better.
But no, this is a character that's really heavily influenced a lot of people, and not just in movies and the comics, but like in their actual lives. People have looked to this character as a role model, as a inspiration, and it's been my experience that things like this sort of take on a life of their own, right? Which is why I think people are so passionate about when changes are made to their characters. I know you guys know a little bit more about this in the comics, but like, what was the evolution of the character in the comics?
I know.
They've certainly they've certainly made some changes to the character, of course. As far as for years and years, when Superman was the first real superhero, there were some other characters around before him, but he was the first real superhero that really had his own incredible powers and interesting origin and just everything, where he came from another planet and yet tried to hide his gifts as Clark Kent and try to lead a normal life, and meanwhile still be Superman and save the day whenever he could, and try and still hide among humanity, and just so he could keep his his family safe, his parents and everything, his Earth adoptive parents, Mom and Pa Kent, and basically just throughout the years they eventually morphed the character into what worked at the time, and for the most part pre-Crisis from 1938 all the way up to 1986, Superman was a fairly consistent rendition. They obviously changed his costume, tiny tweaks here and there, but for the most part, in '86 when they did Crisis on Infinite Earths, DC streamlined the character, made him a little less powerful because he was so ridiculously powerful. And how are you supposed to have 50 or 60 comics a year about a character that has only can be hurt by magic or kryptonite. So they basically depowered him a little there and
Wasn't
made
it
some
at that
changes.
point, like, they were making up of powers too? Like he had the ability to morph into other people. He had
I think
super mathematics.
Right, yeah, there was more 60s or 70s general comics where it was like just ridiculous, where just anything they wanted to, they could kind of make it work.
I saw
you know?
one picture, like he was pulling like 13 planets on a chain. I
Right.
was like, what is that?
Yeah, it just that was 60s and 70s comics in general, just where it was so ridiculously cheesy, and then it got to the late 70s, early 80s, and it kind of became more of a higher teen, adult market, not just for little kids. So they kind of made it less ridiculous, I guess, less powerful.
Wasn't there a point where he could actually blow out a star? Isn't that one of the more ridiculous things
Yeah,
he's
exactly.
done?
Right. Yeah,
Well,
that would have fit in with 60s, 70s kind of style.
I mean, there's been maybe like 7 or different ages of Superman. Every 10 or 15 years, he has kind of a reboot or a tweak. And really, you can trace it to the editor. That's 15 years is about the tenure of or used to be the tenure of an editor at DC Comics was 10 or 15 years. The first 10 years of the character were when he was under the development of Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster, the creators of the character, and he started out as not all that powerful, as we know. He could leap tall buildings and he could outrace a train, and nothing short of a bursting shell could pierce his skin. So he could have his skin pierced, presumably could die. And mostly he fought like, corrupt businessmen, mad scientists. That's what Luthor was. He didn't have a first name at first. But throughout that first 10 years, then they slowly started to ratchet up the powers, and you got his cast of characters that were assembled in multimedia, because he had the movie serials going on. He had the radio show. The thing is, he was just a hit. And you have to remember, he's the first superhero. There were no super-powered alter ego people at the time like that. You had the Phantom, you had Doc Savage, you had a couple people in Pulp Fiction, but Superman was that perfect package that happened, and it was that moment. And yeah, it took them 5 years to sell it, these two Jewish kids from Cleveland, but they had that's way over it until about from 1938 to about 47, 48, and then the editor Mort Weisinger took over as a primary influence of Superman, and he's the one that well, first it was like for the next 10 years, 47 to 48 to like 58, was when they had just introduced Superman as a Superboy as a separate side character, and that also was Siegel and Schuster creating him. But then they left, and for 10 years you had the increased science fictionalization of Superman. Then you started to get more Krypton in there, and at first Krypton was depicted as a race of Supermen, super beings. They had the superpowers on Krypton. And Jor-El himself would get adventures. His dad looked kind of like Superman-ish. He had a different color scheme, but he had a headband and he had like a cape and sun emblem. So it was still working out what the character was. Then, about 10 years, that's when Mort Weisinger became the only editor of Superman comics. We had 10 years of just increasing powers, but that's also where Superman became this ideal. He started off as a kid's character with that scope. By then, he started to become this American myth, this American demigod, this fairy tale of red, white, and blue, apple pie, the blue Boy Scout. And so he was about optimism. He was about power, about confidence. And Clark Kent himself was just a role that Superman played, that Kal-El played. And by the end of that period, those 10 years, then we had the passing of the guard to Julius Schwartz, the next editor, and that was the Silver Age. That's when really it was campy, over the top. But that ideal, that American ideal, that he was undefeatable, and you had to come up with crazier things to get rid of him. Kryptonite's an interesting development because it was like 10 years in, and suddenly he was getting so powerful. They said, "Oh, we need something to depower him," so we had Kryptonite added. That all culminated in the 70s and the 80s. By then, like you guys say, he was blowing out stars. The version you see in the Superman movie where people like to complain that he turned time backwards, he was doing that in the comics. So it was true to that. But that's when in 86 they said, let's depower him, let's make him human. Some people complained at the time. It was the end of the whole DC universe. And then from 86 until 2011, we had the development of one, coherent Superman story, a less powerful Clark Kent, an emphasis on his cast of characters as well, or his ensemble. And they killed it. 2 years ago, they killed it. I grew up with it, and they killed it.
So
and now there's a new Superman.
I want to interject here for a second, because what was the deal with stuff like Comet of the Superhorse and Crypto, the super dog.
Yeah, that's the 60s and 70s.
Yeah,
when,
very, late 50s,
So
early
this was
60s, right?
Superman comics on acid. Is that what's going on here?
Pretty
And
much,
they
yeah.
made references even after that. Like in Smallville, he had his dog.
Yeah.
And at first, in the first episode it was introduced, it did have strength.
Yes.
well, all these
but
things.
everything in Smallville was powered by kryptonite, the one thing that killed
right.
Superman. It was kind of dumb.
No, but even that is from the comic. You know, it's funny. Superman's been around so long that everything you see has been done before.
Right.
The death of Superman, that was a huge influential story in 1990. What was it?
92.
Yeah. Jerry Siegel did a Death of Superman What If story back in 1961.
Right.
But it wasn't as big a deal. Death of Superman that was another moment where there was a slow news day and the media picked it up and suddenly it was this huge thing of speculating that happened in the comics. It was this huge bubble that burst.
Right.
But no, everything that you see in Superman has typically been done before, except for taking his underwear off, which should never be done.
So what is the origin of the costume? The first origin.
There's just a strongman costume. It was like, of the time. You look at any of the stuff at the time, and the strongmen at the circus and
think
the
he means in
sideshows
the
used to
story.
wear.
Yeah, I mean, did they give any reason for him choosing that?
Oh no, typically it's the blanket that Baby Kal-El was swathed in. Sometimes, I mean, we're obsessing over nitpicking over these things. Like I said, it took 10 years for them to kind of figure this story out. He had multiple origins and stuff. In the radio show, he just he arrives on Earth and he's Superman in the costume already. In the cartoon, they say that he arrived on Earth. Some motorists found him and left him at in the original 1941 was it Fleischer cartoons that they did. He arrived on Earth. He was dropped off in an orphanage, and then he became Superman. They don't get into like where the costume came from. In the comics themselves, like you have different versions of it going on. But one thing that became a constant stream eventually was that Martha Kent, which originally their names were actually Eben and Sarah Kent when they had names, but then later it was Martha Kent. That she sewed the costume from the fabric of his garments, like mine. My mama did this for me.
Right. So so let's talk about, like you mentioned, the 60s and 70s. We had Vietnam. We had the Cold War after that.
Right.
And in a lot of these iterations, you had Superman interacting with the soldiers and dealing with it. But the writers actually took care not to have Superman step in and just solve the problem,
right.
because they felt it was going to be disrespectful to the actual soldiers that were fighting these battles.
Well,
Correct.
there was one issue where Superman like killed Hitler or whatever in one page, but it was like kind of a what if story. They did that sometimes in World War II. Emotions were high.
Well, didn't they use it to also like demonize Hitler, demonize Stalin?
Demonize the Japanese in some hilarious racist cartoons
they
too.
were super racist. Yeah.
Super
Well, back
racist.
then it wasn't called racism; it was called
Patriotism.
Patriotism, exactly.
Patriotism.
So, if you guys had to choose, what's your favorite aspect of Superman? Like, what part of Superman would you want to encompass if you could just take one part of him?
That's a good question. Yeah, I'm not too sure. I don't know. I mean, obviously, you've got this character that's this great, like, will do anything to help people, and that's I guess the main attribute that you want to, sensationalize, and it's a good thing to have, is this character that just goes out of his way to help anyone. And there's been some nitpicking here and there. So a writer recently brought up a big deal a few years ago. When Superman showed up in another country, they were like, "Oh, well, he's from the U.S. It's an act of war," and he's like, "No, I'm not a U.S. citizen." And some people took that the wrong way and went, "Oh, he hates the U.S. Superman's not a patriot." It's like, no, that's not the case. He's just not here representing the U.S. government. They didn't send him. The president didn't go over there and fix this. And it was an interesting. But yeah, recently a writer brought it up in the mainstream press, saying, "Look how DC Comics is making this too political and saying that Superman's not a patriot," and it was really over the top and ridiculous,
Well, one of the things I did when I was getting ready for this was I actually went online to our social media sites, and I asked for people to write about their experience with the character, and I picked my favorite one, which was on Google Plus. It was a user named Harold Hirsch, and I'm going to read his comment here.
Hi, Harold.
He said, "Superman is a fantasy character, and I don't mean merely fictional. He's literally the reader's wish fulfillment power fantasy, always righting wrongs and defending the weak. He is an individual that we imagine we could be, always self-assured and up to the task even when feigning weakness and insecurity in the guise of Clark Kent. Where Batman is a revenge fantasy, Superman is a proactive protector. He is much more likely to prevent wrongs and disasters rather than having to avenge them after the fact. Starting with the late 30s, Jerry Siegel and Joel Shuster's dreams of justice manifested through taking down slumlords, wife-beaters, swindlers, and the like. Through World War II, acting as America's dream proxy, laughing in the face of the Axis threat. Even after the war, as his enemies got more powerful and he became sort of an agent of the established order, Superman remained our ideal of humanity, though ironically, technically not human. His alien oranges make oranges. His alien
oranges. Watch out for those alien oranges.
His alien origins make him genetically superior, and he's graced with a sure sense of right and wrong from his Heartland, Kansas upbringing. Physically and ethically, he is the perfection we aspire to be. In short, Superman is the idealized archetype of the hero inside of all of us.
Very good.
While I overall agree with that, there is some flip sides to that where they've done like parallel universes and Superman ends up being a bad guy because of a bad experience. Batman seems to be the one that doesn't change.
Yeah,
seems
bad
to be the
Batman
one-
would still just be beating people up. So.
Yes, but still not killing. See, he always has that thing like he doesn't want to kill, even though he probably should with some villains, like Joker and stuff. But like he always had that thing about him that he's still the Dark Knight. He's still a good guy, even in the flip side universe.
So bringing this back to Superman.
Well, Superman broke that dude's
saying,
neck.
with Superman, why is it that Superman changes?
Because he's so good. That's why.
I think it's also just in a what-if story. It's an interesting take on this character that's like pure and American and apple pie to become a killer or whatever. It's an interesting take. Marvel had a book called Supreme Power where basically he got raised by the U.S. government and they said, oh, look, Uncle Sam's the greatest thing ever, but go over to Iraq and Iran and take care of their nuclear weapons because they're not responsible. They won't save the day. So go get those weapons. And it was that version of Superman in Supreme Power. You know, a fake Superman analog character basically went and did everything the government told him, and even if they told him something crazy because they raised him thinking, oh, this is the right thing to do, you know, but it's just an analog what if type, type.
But then he
story, so it
rebelled
just
in that,
depends.
even in that story. I mean,
Right.
These are the interesting things about Superman. He is a modern myth. He's the modern Hercules. He's become inadvertently. This character has become all of our super ego manifested. The Superman himself. It's some interesting philosophy. What I like about him is that he's universal. He grew beyond just America, and this was the Julie Schwartz era. I mean, for all of its the Silver Age and for all of its negative stuff, that gave us an increasing Superman in power, but also an increasing Superman in his scope of the world. In the 70s, you had that famous Superman versus Muhammad Ali issue, in which Superman gets his ass whooped by Muhammad Ali
Right.
when they took his powers away. But then they join forces and they defeat these evil aliens for world peace. They had issues like Superman Fights World Hunger.
Right.
And just some wonderful stuff the characters come to embody. He's known all over the world, and he's not just thought of as an American thing. I go to Pakistan, my family's from there, and they know who Superman is. And Superman's just an ideal that fights injustice. And that's what's wonderful about that character. And I think that's where the responsibility lies with creators to keep that. And that's tough. It's tough to write a character that's so pure, but still make the danger real, the drama real, the pathos real. We've had so many reinventions now as technology is increasing. Like every few years, we get a new attempt at the origin story just to keep up with technology. We had Superman Birthright. We had Superman Earth 1. We had Superman Secret
Man of
Origin
Steel,
by Jeff
right.
Johns. And
Yeah.
some of these are the same creative people now doing it. But, in the 80s when they rebooted the character, that's right when I had started to get comics. And I fell in love with DC Comics at the time, and I really liked their new take on. I got to see Superman, like kids today are probably seeing him, but I worry that the version today that people are seeing, I worry that it doesn't do enough justice to the origins and the mythos, because like when we have in Man of Steel, we have Superman just breaking the dude's neck at the end of the movie.
Well, hold on. I actually want to go back to something you said earlier. You went to Pakistan,
Yeah.
and people know who the character is, and people love this character.
Yeah.
One of the things I have a problem with in not just Superman movies, but in a lot of superhero movies in general, is all of the Christ imagery and references.
Yeah, it's too much of that now.
And it's they really beat you over the head with it.
That's a new thing.
Especially in the last.
That's a new thing for Superman. I don't think Superman's had all this Christ stuff going on as much until
But does that get recognized elsewhere, like in Pakistan?
Well, luckily Superman Returns stank and nobody watched it. So all those creepy images of him floating around in space like Jesus, and then doing nothing throughout the movie wasn't like didn't register. And I think the intense action of Man of Steel kind of counterbalances the Christliness, because Christ wouldn't crack a dude's neck at the end of
I don't know. I think Christ might whoop some ass.
Super Jesus.
But
that's a new thing. I mean, they had a little bit of it in Superman the movie with the my son, I'm sending you to Earth to be the hero. But I think the Christopher Reeve movies managed to stay away from too much Jesus. You have to remember, there's a couple of Jewish kids made this character, so it's got a lot like a lot of the comics in general. They got a good, healthy Old Testament sensibility of right versus wrong and kick some butt. But these were Jewish minority folks, so they weren't trying to like get everybody all evangelical and focus on that kind of dogmatism per se. They took morality, and they took four-color action, power fantasy. And also, it's funny, I read a thing about Jerry Siegel that also one of his big inspirations was he just wanted girls to like him. So one of his main focuses was the Lois Lane character, because that was his fantasy. He was a scrawny kid with glasses, and so many girls had rejected him. So he wanted a character that could do anything, like pick up cars and leap buildings to impress girls. So that's why Lois Lane's such an important part of it.
Well, it's actually an interesting point too. But I want to touch on this. You talked about Man of Steel. One of the big things about Man of Steel that people were just freaking out about was the destruction of the city at the end and him killing Zod. Spoiler. And nobody seemed to have a problem with Christopher Reeve's Superman killing Zod. I mean, he crushes the dude's hand, picks it up, and throws him into the abyss.
Yeah, but
then Lois Lane punches
right into the abyss.
Right. Yeah, and she goes into the abyss, and then they smile and hug each other.
Yeah.
Where was all this outcry? I was like, oh, Superman doesn't kill people then.
Well, look, they didn't show Zod landing on a bunch of spikes in the bottom of the like a bunch of whatever you call them, icy spikes. Yeah, no, they didn't show that.
Yeah,
they were smart.
It was something I took issue with. It wasn't smart. It was the limitation of the technology at the time. If they could have shown it, they would have shown it.
Well, Wonder
They
Woman
could have shown a body on spikes.
But they could have. They didn't have the ability to show the kind of violence that occurred.
Yeah, they did.
This new movie in 1978, they had the ability to show that.
Of course,
kind
they did.
Give me an example.
Huh?
Give me an example.
Well, they had violence and nudity in movies back then. Huh?
Star Wars was groundbreaking. Star Wars.
No, they had violence in movies. So Dirty Harry was a series from the 70s. They had violence.
But what I'm saying is they didn't have the ability to make that violence look as real as it did in this movie.
Well,
because I mean, Krypton was made of freaking styrofoam and glitter.
Right.
You know, I mean,
let me point one
but
thing out.
The battle didn't take place on Krypton; it took place on Earth.
Well, one cool thing about the original movie,
they showed violence in there. They showed the dam exploding. They showed a whole bunch of other things. They could have shown more.
Taking it off, like to go on a little bit of a tangent with what you're talking about, but still adding to it. I want to give kudos to the original Superman the movie, because we should all remember we have this thing of like all these Hollywood big blockbuster superhero movies now. And some people think that like the X-Men movie was the first one, or the Blade gets the credit, or Batman gets the credit. Really, Superman the movie gets the credit for the whole genre that we have now of serious, adult-oriented comic book movies. In 1978 or 77, 78, when that came out, up to that point, movies were campy, and that was a beautiful adult movie, and everybody took it seriously, and from then we could have other movies like that. So we could have the neck-breaking Superman thanks to the original Superman. Just wanted to throw that in.
I don't know that I necessarily agree with that. I do think the modern superhero genre that we've been enjoying for the last decade is in large part due to Christopher Nolan's Batman.
No.
I hate to say it. But Superman was not a bad movie, but I wouldn't say it was maybe the state of the art at the time. But
it was still kind of.
You go back and watch that now; it's pretty cheesy.
No,
the story's still good, but I mean, it's a pretty terrible. Like
again, you have to suspend your disbelief. It's about a man in underwear flying around picking up things.
When
Superman 4.
I actually had this discussion with Dante earlier, and Dante's running the show, by the way. Dante got a little upset that we didn't mention him at the last show. So just want to make sure that I got that out there. But when Zod lands on Earth for the first time, right? He lands in water.
Sure.
Right? Now, he touches the water like he doesn't know what it is, and he says, "Oh, what a strange surface for this planet."
Yes.
Earlier in the movie, they refer to themselves as mankind. You know,
Uh-huh.
they know what a man is. You know, why is it that when he comes to this planet, all of a sudden this, what one would consider fairly mundane stuff, is so unusual to
No,
them?
you're being dumb. They
like
showed-
there's no water
You're being
anywhere
dumb.
else in the universe.
Yeah,
I mean,
no, they showed Krypton. It had no water on it. It was a big icy planet without like
What is
a lake.
ice?
A lake. It didn't have a lake.
what is ice?
You're from look. Suspend your disbelief, dude. It was a funny, great moment. He's walking on the water. He's like, "What a broad surface." He's walking on water. Anti-Jesus. It was great.
He was anti-Jesus. Yes, he was South Park Jesus.
No, those movies were revolutionary at that, and not just the time. They're still fun to watch. They had fun. It was like Superman 1 is like 3 movies. It's like the first part is all operatic Krypton. The second part is like Norman Rockwell painting in the in the farms, and then you had the funny Metropolis. If you want to blame someone for funny Metropolis, blame Gene Hackman because he wanted to do a funny Lex Luthor. But you can't argue with Christopher Reeves, man.
No, Christopher Reeves was awesome. I'm not saying that. I mean, that's my Superman.
Sounds
about-
like
what
you
about
are,
the Superman
and
of
sounds
the-
like you hate America, Jose.
What about Superman of the New 52?
I don't know.
I
nothing
honestly don't
about
have a lot of experience with it.
I know a little bit.
My experience with the New 52 is vicarious. It's all through people like you guys that really enjoy the comics and talk about the comics. I haven't gotten into it.
Right.
Well,
can
apart from
you-
getting rid of the, well, you tell them. You know more about it than me.
I think Superman overall, it was for me. I'm a little disappointed with how the New 52s handled Superman. I have liked Action Comics by Grant Morrison, kind of getting into his early days, and they have like a shorter cape and he had jeans and stuff like that. And it was a little bit different, but it worked. Meanwhile, Superman itself, it just finally got good for me after 4 or 5 writers. It took till Jeff Johns and John Romita Jr. just took over recently, and it's finally entertaining. Those first few story arcs just didn't really catch me, and they were trying to show that he was more of a I guess everyman character than he's been in the past, but it just wasn't very exciting. Didn't keep your interest, and I think they had a great opportunity to put any one of 50 comic writers that could have done a good job with it, and none of those kind of caught early. So
I've heard he's like angrier and darker in those, at least those ones that you're mentioning.
right,
now.
to a degree. I mean, for the most part, it's he's more. He's not quite, going around killing people on purpose or anything, but at the same time, they definitely do have a little more of an interesting take. For me, the most interesting dynamic of the New 52 Superman is that when you first meet Lois, she has a boyfriend, and like Clark doesn't say anything, and you're like, okay, eventually they'll get together. And then it took a year into the books to realize, wow, Superman and Wonder Woman are together. That's a pleasant surprise. So it's something different. Will it last forever? Probably not. Will he eventually end up with Lois a year, 2, 5, whatever down the road? Of course. It's just how the mythology goes. But at least for now, him and Wonder Woman dating, and they actually have their own book together.
Knocking
and it's
boots.
It's just interesting. You actually see
Knocking
that
them
they're
red
like
boots.
really together, and it's pretty wild.
I don't know. That'd be pretty intimidating. I wouldn't want to be Superman's rebound girl.
Right. It's true.
And you're like, if there is anything that's still kindling between
Right.
him and Wonder Woman, that'd be a
Yeah,
scary
that's a bad
position to
ex.
be in. Yeah.
That's a
Yeah.
bad ex to have,
Yeah.
actually.
Right.
Come to think of it, you're right.
Yeah.
Think about all your exes and how you get along with them
So,
now.
right.
Now,
How your wife does.
So talking about like a newer age of Superman, a newer incarnation of Superman. One of the things we have now, and I would guess for the last 20 years or so, is Superman in video games.
Right.
And that's what Brandon was gonna bring to the table here.
I was. It started off back in '79. Superman on the Atari 2600. This was for the time actually was a really amazing game. It was one of the first games, period, to even feature a pause feature in video games at all.
Wow.
The goal of the game then was you were basically flying around on a 2D screen, repairing a bridge. You had to capture Lex and his henchmen, and then turn back into Clark and get back to the Daily Planet, all in a short amount of time.
Is this where they got the nickname for him from some of the blur, because he was just like a red pixel?
Maybe.
I think that's no.
Then it was actually a few years after that the next Superman Superman game came out, and that was on the Commodore. And that actually did have another villain outside of Lex Luthor, because for me personally, I'm tired of Lex Luthor. I like him as a character, but I'm just tired of seeing him. But they had Darkseid in this one, and you could actually that was your main goal, was to fight and end up defeating Darkseid. Although you could play as Darkseid as well, and you could lure citizens into tunnels and stuff to capture.
Hit them with your Omega beams.
Yep. Then in '88, Superman on the Nintendo, and also in the arcade. That was the first two-player Superman. The villain in that one was Emperor Zos. I actually don't know who that is.
Emperor
nothing.
Zos.
Zaas.
Weird.
Zos.
Super obscure.
So yeah, so
nothing.
he's super obscure. That's right.
There we go.
Oh, but I remember that. That's the arcade game where you could be a red or blue Superman.
Yes.
Fly around.
Right.
That was awesome.
Yes.
I used to play that when I was a little kid.
Those were pretty decent Superman games for their time. Then in the early '90s on Genesis, there was another Superman game. The villain was Brainiac. There, you got to fight some other villains in there: Metallo, Prankster. A name that I can't really pronounce. It lacks any vowels.
Mix is Pitlick.
Yeah, there you go. In '94, since '92, you guys mentioned the Death of Superman. In '94 on Super Nintendo, there was the Death and Return of Superman.
Yeah.
That featured Doomsday, and while Superman was like the main character, you did play as others, including Superboy, Cyborg, the Eradicator. You didn't get to choose them from the beginning, though. You just played each stage as it was.
Yes.
Then in '99, Superman on Nintendo 64.
Oh yeah.
Oh no.
The worst.
It is. Yes, it is the worst. It is actually quote unquote notorious among critics and gamers as one of the worst games ever made.
Wow.
So it made history.
What was bad? I heard about that too, but what was so bad about it?
Common criticisms include poor collision detection, unreliable controls, high difficulty, general poor execution. The story was bad. It took place in a virtual reality that Lex Luthor created.
So like my wife, basically, a lot like my relationship with my wife.
I did try playing it. I even have a ROM of it that I tried out. It is really terrible. Yeah. Really, really terrible. I would not recommend it. And since then, it has gotten the quote-unquote Superman curse. Games
It fell off a horse and...
pretty much.
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, everyone.
In 2002 and 2003 as well, they had a Shadow of Apocalypse and Countdown to Apocalypse. Those ranked pretty low on the gamer scores, like 45% and 65%. Those are pretty low. They weren't very good games. The stories were not very good. Playability, again, not very good. In 2006, they had the game. That was the last standalone Superman game that there was. That was Superman Returns.
Wow.
Nice. But they actually had like something other than a helicopter for him to fight in
They
that, right?
had, now outside of that, they've had other games that feature Superman. In 2006, they had Justice League Heroes on PS2, Xbox. That was decent. Then Mortal Kombat versus DC Universe. That was actually one of my favorite fighting games. That was in 2008. That's on PS3 and 360. It's really well done. For me, it's actually one of the first times you got to see Superman, actually kind of see how his powers work on the video game screen. You know, those super strong punches, him flying up and uses laser eyes. Those were good things.
It's called heat vision and
Yeah, heat vision.
laser eyes.
Oh, shut up.
Right.
Mr. Foul
L.
from House of Wad.
Yes. My laser eyes haven't kicked in yet. When they
in
do,
2011, DC Universe came out. That's an only online game where you create your own superhero. But they have modes that you can do, that you can play as the big heroes, including Superman and all that. That overall has actually done really well. That's on PS3, PS4, and on PC. I have played it. I still have a character on it. Sometimes every few months I'll still go back and play it. It's actually a decent game. If you've not played it, I would recommend it. And then lastly, the newest incarnation is Injustice:
Ooh,
Gods
nice.
Among
So
Us.
good.
game.
So
game.
good.
So good. It is a
So
fighting
good.
game, but again, so you get to
game.
see how these powers come to life in a video game.
Realistic.
That all these
So
characters have.
here, I
Realistic,
want to
well done.
interrupt on this one because I love Injustice: Gods Among Us. Right? Love this story that's in this game. Never played it.
You just watched.
I watched the movie version of it where they cut all the cutscenes together.
But the fighting and seeing Superman be able to do that kind of thing, that's what I really enjoy. And it saddens me that there has not been a standalone Superman game since '06, and actually really since '94 that it was a good game. So 20 years, no good Superman game.
Another thing I like about Injustice is while they gave him a bodysuit, they still colored his crotch area red. That's all we want. The fans. That's all we want.
There's actually
we want some red on that crotch.
There's actually a skin you can download to get rid of that.
It sounds like you want a rash.
Huh?
So you want superheroes to have a rash.
No, man.
You just want some red on the crotch area.
No.
Yeah, you
Don't try and
can
sully
get
what I'm trying
you can
to
get you can get a Man of Steel.
I'm talking about
skin
mythology.
for Superman,
You
so
guys
you
are-
just have the red belt and no red underwear.
No.
But yeah, no, the storyline in Injustice: Gods Among Us. I mean, it literally is movie worthy. I mean, you can watch
Oh,
this
it's good.
as a movie.
The storyline in DC Universe is actually pretty decent too. Brainiac actually pretty much there was a war going on between the heroes and villains, and then Brainiac ended up taking over at near the end of that war and just kind of took out all superheroes and villains. And so you kind of had to go back in time. And Lex actually is like, "Oh my God, sorry, I was wrong. We need you."
I think you forgot the greatest Superman video game of all, which is the one that Richard Pryor creates in Superman 3. Which almost killed Superman because it controlled missiles. And most people forget that Richard Pryor almost killed Superman. He got a pass on that in the American public, but I haven't forgotten Richard. So I always got an eye on you. Is he still? Yeah. No? Did he go?
No, I think he's still kicking.
But he's got superpower. You can't. That Superman came back, so maybe Richard can come back. I got my eye on you, Grave of Richard Pryor.
All right, well, so
Super
yeah,
genius.
so we've got
You're
Superman.
not taking a penny from my bank account.
We got Superman in books. We got Superman in movies. We got Superman in video games. And it's
Kind of.
It's across all spectrums, and it's a really interesting thing to see. The character is kind of a phenomenon.
It's a phenomenon.
And I don't know that we'll ever not have a Superman, good or bad. I think it'll always be out there. I think there'll always be someone who wants this kind of character. But Rick, I think at this point it's time for
Rick Cobb.
Also, one more thing before we get into comics is just that I've read something that says that Superman and Batman are the two most recognizable fictional characters ahead of Mickey Mouse all over the world.
Wow.
So it just shows you like everywhere they recognize the character. They may not even speak a word of English, but they sure enough know, all over the world know who that character is. So it's wild. So. First book we're going to talk about is Superman: Whatever Happened to the Man of Tomorrow. This is by Alan Moore and Kurt Swan, and it's this fantastic book that is all about basically kind of a happy ending for Superman. He sort of kind of goes away and disappears, kind of the end of the 1980 up till 1986 Superman when they did Crisis on Infinite Earths and got rid of the superly overpowered Superman, I guess. And it basically, at first, he appears to be missing, but you kind of see he gets a happy ending when it's all said and done. So this is a great story, fantastic. Alan Moore has written Watchmen and some of the other best comics of all time, just knocks it out of the park, and it's a really fun, creative read that's totally unlike anything else they've ever done with the character. So easily one of my favorite Superman stories that I've really, really enjoyed quite a bit. The next thing we're going to talk about is Superman Red Sun. This is an Elseworld story, and it's one of the best things that Mark Millar's ever done. As far as getting Superman in a different perspective, what if the rocket landed 12 hours later and he landed in Russia? And it basically has him raised not in the United States, but in a totally different country where he's raised and grows up with different sensibilities. And because of that, the whole world has changed dramatically. And it's kind of superheroes and every minor character in there. From obviously they used Lois Lane and Lex Luthor and like Batman and Green Lantern and other characters and show how they progress because of without having Superman in the United States to kind of lead the way. I guess it's a whole new kind of darker world. But Mark Millar, one of the best things he's ever written, and easily one of the best Superman stories of all time. Really, really fantastic story. So I certainly enjoy this one quite a bit. And hands down, one of the best Superman stories. Another thing that's super action-packed, probably the most action-packed out of all the books we're going to talk about, is Superman Batman. Jeff Loeb and Ed McGuinness just knocked this out of the park. Jeff Loeb was one of the writers on Smallville from a few seasons. He's written all sorts of great TV and comics. And What's that? Indeed, he wrote Commando and Teen Wolf. He wrote some pretty interesting stuff. So yeah, he's an awesome,
Teen Wolf?
diverse writer. Indeed, yeah. So Jeff Loeb, his answer to comics that were super slow and kind of boring. For a little while there, they were doing stories that were like 6 issues for anything to happen. Well, it felt like 6 issues worth of story happened in every issue of this, and so it was a 6-issue story where it was like, okay, now Superman and Batman are under attack by this person. Now they're public enemies and they're bad guys, and good guys are chasing after them because they're being told to by the government, and this and that, and it guest stars a million guest stars. They did do a fantastic movie of this animated movie, and it has everybody from Captain Atom and Power Girl and Jon Stewart, Green Lantern, and Katana, Lex Luthor, Mongol, all sorts of characters all over the place. And it's just a really fun, very action-packed read. You can go in knowing nothing about Superman or Batman and just really understand it. And it was one of our best-selling books when it first came out, and it's just been one of my favorite things to read and reread. So really, really a fun, action-packed Superman story. The next book we're going to tackle is Superman, the Last Son of Krypton. Jeff Johns is one of my favorite writers. He's one of the 5 guys in control of the DC Universe, and he actually just took over the book as well again. And this was an awesome story where a kid shows up that appears to be, it could almost be Superman's son. It's like he's got the powers of Superman, and they don't know how someone else would have survived from Krypton but been young enough to still show up at on Earth all of a sudden, and where did he come from? So it's this great mystery of what happened with this character and where he came from. And Jeff Johns and Richard Donner, actually, who Jeff Johns used to be his assistant, who did the first 2 Superman movies, they worked together for a while, so we got Richard Donner to kind of throw in some input on here, and it was the only thing he's really done in comics. But yeah, they did a great Superman story just involving his son, and it kind of went from there, and did a few other things. So they have this new formatted book that has like 10 or 12 issues, something like that, for $20. Last Son of Krypton is a fantastic read and easily one of my favorite Superman stories of the last 10 or 15 years. So really, really good. Second to last is Superman Earth 1. J. Michael Straczynski has written everything from Babylon 5 to Amazing Spider-Man and all sorts of good stuff. He came in and wanted to kind of do a new take on Superman, so it's set up on another a different Earth, so it's not in current continuity or anything, but it's a younger, more unsure of himself version. The cool thing is that they didn't go straight to Lex Luthor. It kind of has a different villain in there, and he does a great job of just showing a Superman that really hasn't got all the experience of the Superman we know today. It's been around for 76 years, so it's an interesting take, and it was one of the things that absolutely every store I know, including ourselves, way under-ordered this, and even though we ordered monster amount for a hardcover, everyone just picked up on it, and every store did better than they expected because it was just such a fresh, creative take on the character. So last up is Superman Action Comics Volume 1 by Grant Morrison, and this is the new 52 Superman. This is the part I've enjoyed most the last 3 years of what they've tackled with Superman, and it's basically all about how his younger days, as you can see here, his costume's a little different. He's got like a tiny cape, he's got jeans on, so it's before he's quite as defined as he is today. But yeah, the first few books of this go through his early years and just show again where he's a little more unsure of himself. But yeah, it was a pretty good creative take on the character, and I've certainly liked everything Grant Morrison and Rags Morales have done with it. So those are some of my favorite Superman stories of the last of ever, right there. So cool.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Yeah, certainly.
And just to point this out, the first one that we talked about.
Oh yeah, right.
Yeah. This book is actually going to go to the person that gave us our favorite comment online. So for putting in that comment, that's the one that they're gonna receive.
Very good.
With all these stories and all these books and all these different incarnations of the character, if you had to narrow it down to one instance, your favorite Superman moment, what would it be?
I don't know. I mean, honestly, the other book I almost included and didn't is the as harsh as it is, the death of Superman. I mean, certainly was an interesting story just because it got more people that when that first came out, I was actually I'm such a nerd I can tell you the exact date. It was November 20th, 1992, and it was I actually got out of school early to go get my issue and read it, and then went back to school because I had pretty cool parents. So basically, wore my Superman armband for Superman's death at school. That level of nerdery right here. But it served me well as I own a comic store. So it's but yeah, it was definitely, it got people talking to people. All of a sudden, people who'd never asked about comics, knowing I'd worked in the comic store already at the time, were like, oh, what's going on? That's Superman. What's the deal with that? And it just got this level of discussion going, and it certainly got people talking. And oh my God, they're actually gonna kill this character. Of course, at the time we knew we'd be back in 6 months, and he was. But sure enough, it was an interesting story that encouraged more people to dive into comics and helped create the kind of growth of the market. Even though it didn't last long, it certainly got more people excited about comics, and I'm always for that.
Brendan?
Because I don't really read them, I would almost have to pick at least, if not that moment that Superman died, at least those kinds of big fights with other villains.
But remember, this isn't just comics. This is across all mediums.
Probably the latest incarnation, Man of Steel, would probably be my favorite one.
No, but what's your favorite Superman moment? Name one thing that you really love that Superman has done.
The destruction of the city. That. Because it actually showed how someone that powerful would actually fight and how much damage would be done.
Okay.
It's not this lame, like, oh, let's just push each other across the street. No, it's if I hit you, you're going to go through a building.
All right.
Fawad here. The favorite moment of
favorite
Superman
moment.
It's hard because Superman's all over my life, all over all of our lives. We have all those moments. Like one of the first comic books I ever got was a Superman, I think it was an Adventures of Superman issue from a 7-Eleven that my dad got for me when I was a little kid. And the crazy thing is that how many generations of little kids have gotten a Superman comic from their dad since 1938 till today? So that's one thing that sticks out. The Christopher Reeve movies from when I was a kid, there's moments of that I just remember, like when the little obnoxious little freaking kid is playing on the damn Niagara Falls in part 2. Yeah. He's like, Mom, look at this. Look what I can do. Look what I can do. Look what I can. And everybody in America hates that kid. Everybody in America was like, you idiot. But then Superman's like, oh, Lois, hold this hot dog. It's like, whoosh. So that's a great moment I remember from my childhood. Stupid moment. But Christopher Reeve, every single time the guy smiled at the screen, it was great. And then in comics, I think Death of Superman was a great moment for all of us. All of us who are like 30-something years old, we were like 12, 13 back then, in those lines at the comic shops. And I remember I came home one day a few weeks later, and my little sister and her friend had gotten into my room, and she had opened my sealed Death of Superman.
Oh.
Her friend did.
Blasphemy.
And then they put it back like I wouldn't notice.
And this is one of your favorite Superman moments?
And it was signed. The whole creative team had come to the comic store. So it was signed by Mike Carlin, Roger Stern, Dave Jurgens, everybody. Ripped. Open. But I will get my revenge someday. Now that I have my heritage knowledge.
What's interesting in this aspect of it for me is my favorite Superman moment comes from Justice League. And it comes as an adult, not from when I was a kid. It is this moment where he's fighting Apocalypse. And the battle is raging through the city, and there's destruction, and there's stuff going on. And Superman sort of has this realization.
I feel like I live in a world made of cardboard, always taking constant care not to break something, to break someone. Never allowing myself to lose control, even for a moment, or someone could die. But you can take it, can't you, big man? What we have here is a rare opportunity for me to cut loose and show you just how powerful I really am.
And there's just that moment of like, oh, shit just got real. like Superman just went, oh, I don't need to be gentle with you, And it's not that the animation or even, the events of what took place were anything that special afterwards, but it was just that moment of him standing up and going, I can kick some ass. This almost weird realization that he had really it was just a moment that I
Cutting
have
loose.
trouble describing. Because as an adult, this cartoon gave me freaking goosebumps.
You mean Justice League War? You mean?
Yes.
That's very much what they did with the death of Superman too, because it was like they came up with the character that he could just beat the snot out of, and they could beat him to the death. They just and there's that death issue is just it's all one panel,
all
one
splash
page,
pages,
splash
right.
pages
Yeah.
of punches. It's just every page is a punch. So yeah, that can be a powerful part. He's got different sides to him. He's got that super powerful being, and then he's got the gentle side. He's got the side saving a kitten. And he's got he's a romantic guy, but he's a sweetheart. That's why we love him. He's got all this stuff, and we dreamed that was us.
All right.
And he's a nerd too.
That's a whole other discussion. But I mean, we really could go on and on about this. There actually is a documentary about Superman. It's called Superman Through the Ages. It's a 2-hour documentary, and it covers this entire span of time from the first Action Comics all the way to the Brandon Routh movie. Yeah. And it's actually really interesting. You can actually see it on YouTube for free if you guys want to check it out. So I think Superman is it's kind of a personal thing for everyone. Everyone has their own feeling on it. Everyone, even the people that hate the character, they're invested enough in him to hate him.
Right.
So Superman really is something special, and I really am looking forward to them doing more with it. I am going to go back and read some of the New 52 stuff because I've heard some good things. I've also heard some bad things. Right. But I think overall it's just Superman really is it's just like he's the Ubermensch. He's that really powerful all-encompassing thing that you almost can't understand but want to be. And that's kind of how I want to wrap up my feelings on him.
Any questions or comments?
Yeah.
From the audience?
So we're wrapping this up now. Any questions from you guys in the audience?
Comments. How about comments? What's your favorite?
What's your favorite Superman moment
or storylines?
So the question is, what are our thoughts on the sequel to Man of Steel, Dawn of Justice? That would be Superman v. Batman, Dawn of Justice.
I feel two ways. When I first heard the announcement, I was like, hell yeah! Superman, Batman team up, right? Then they announced that they were going to make it kind of like Superman versus Batman. And I was like, oh, hell yeah, I really like that story. But then I started to think, it's like, wait a minute, we just met Superman. There's been no mention of any other superheroes. This story occurs after Superman and Batman have built up this long history, right? So it was like, how the hell are they going to do that in this second movie? So that gives me some concerns.
We don't know what the story is yet. They've said that it's going to be based somewhat off of the Dark Knight Returns.
Yeah, Frank Miller.
Which is weird because that story, I don't know how that will work. Because that storyline, Superman in that story is a government puppet.
Yes.
And Batman is this anti-hero, anti-government anti-hero. And it was written in the 80s by a very liberal dude, Frank Miller, when comics themselves were very critical of the right wing that was kind of controlling the government. And we had the Cold War going on and maybe heading us toward nuclear war. So Superman is shown as a tool of American kind of war propaganda, and Batman has to fight against him. And that's what the dynamic was in that battle between the two. And
part of the problem with that is he specifically states in the first movie, it's like, you fear me because you can't control me, and you never will.
Right. So in that comic anyway, Superman is establishment, Batman's anti-establishment, but Man of Steel, being earlier in the Superman story, has Superman as anti-establishment, and Ben Affleck is Batman.
That's where I was going to go. I was excited. I was really excited to see like Batman vs Superman or Superman vs Batman, however you want to name it, label it as you will.
Dawn of Justice.
I was right. there you go. I was excited for the concept until Ben Affleck got cast. Then I was like, oh.
I think everybody's overreacting about the whole Ben Affleck thing. I was upset about it too. I did not like it because everyone remembers Daredevil, but Daredevil was a terrible movie. Right. You can only do so much with a terrible movie. It was a poorly written character.
I don't think Ben Affleck can get that dark.
Ben Affleck has proven himself to be a really good actor.
But
I think an example
the town.
Of that kind of character.
The town. He's a bank robber, right? who has lived in this part of town that's famous for raising bank robbers, who's dealing with his friend who is sort of escalating in this this genre, and he finally escalates to killing people and taking hostages, and like he played a really dark character, and he fell in love with one of the hostages.
Well, I think one thing that's interesting is that the whole Ben Affleck controversy has been overshadowed. Right when they let it be known that there's a Wonder Woman in the movie now, and they cast that, and then everyone started hating on that girl.
Cyborg.
So I think it's already almost over with. Now we all just want to see the movie and what it is. So I don't know. We don't know what it's going to be.
No,
We're gonna see.
My problem with all these announcements, all these superheroes that they're adding to the roster is, this is a 2-hour movie. We've never met any of these people. How are they going to develop these characters in such a way that you're going to care about any of them? Well, this story really needs to be about Superman and Batman.
Right. I don't know. I think we're going to get that Batman-Superman interaction. I think the other characters that are going to be in there, I think they'll really be a tiny last... I know Wonder Woman's in there a bit more, but all these other characters are almost all going to be cameos, literally just leading into a Justice League movie. It sounds like they're going to film that and Justice League back-to-back. DC is not quite officially announced, but a run of 7 movies over 2.5 years span, starting with this next movie, starting with the movie we're talking about, and then going into Justice League, and even going beyond that with like a Flash Green Lantern team-up movie. So it doesn't need to be like a separate, movie for each character after we meet them in Justice League, a separate Wonder Woman movie, Shazam, other characters like that. So they're gonna have an interesting run of stuff. I don't think it's gonna be, Cyborg and minor characters have 20 minutes of screen time. You're gonna see them for 3 minutes at the end, right before the credits or right during the credits or whatever. So we'll see what happens.
Was a follow-up?
Question is, should DC adopt the Marvel philosophy? And I've actually written about this. I've discussed this. I've had arguments about this. I've made some enemies. I feel like the Nolans and the Jon Favreaus and the Joss Whedons, have really, have paved the way for this. And DC, in an effort to not feel like they are ripping off Marvel, is trying to reinvent the wheel. And I think that's a mistake. I think there's a proven concept that they've gone with, been very successful. Over the past 10 years, they've made something like $12 billion off of all of these movies. Don't mess with that. It works. Develop your characters and then bring them all together. There's nothing wrong with someone else having done it first. And I think they're trying to avoid that label, and it concerns me. I'm really, DC has a tenuous relationship with the big screen, and with the success of Batman, with the Christopher Nolan Batman, and the success of Man of Steel, I really don't want them to mess with that. So it really concerns me. The Dawn of Justice movie concerns me.
Well, we don't know yet what they're going to do, how they're going to do it, or how successful it'll be, because since they weren't able to get Christian Bale in that Batsuit in this movie, then it's not going to be a continuation of those 3 Nolan films into Man of Steel, even though Nolan was involved in Man of Steel as a producer. So maybe we can see a same feel, expect the same feel and a vibe of grittiness and power. But as far as how successfully they'll be able to coordinate like 7 movies together, I think we'll just have to see.
Well, I don't know if you're aware of this, but Warner Brothers actually kind of trashed their relationship with Nolan. He's actually left Warner Brothers, so he's not doing any more of their movies. So the Christopher Nolan feel of it is a concern of mine as well. I don't think Zack Snyder quite has the same chops that Nolan has.
Right.
So it's going to be interesting seeing how going forward they're going to deal with this.
Now, I don't have the confidence in the people in DC, me personally, being a superhero myself. The Jeff Johns, I wouldn't trust him with a movie. Look at what he did with Green Lantern. Yeah, they had movies. They've been making movies.
Well,
they ain't been doing them too good.
I guess Green Lantern did well enough that they're making a sequel to it, though. They're not even going to pretend it didn't happen, like Superman Returns, like they just pretended that didn't exist. They're actually going to acknowledge the Green Lantern movie for what it was.
As long as they move on to a different Lantern, that's fine.
Right.
I don't know. Whatever.
We'll have to see.
All right.
I don't know.
Next comment.
The next question is, what are our thoughts on the upcoming Gotham series?
They're trying to ride off of the success of Smallville, and they've got Arrow going, which admittedly great
Fantastic,
series.
Right.
Flash.
Let's see.
We haven't seen anything yet, but
No,
it looks kind of shaky.
Right.
But like the Gotham series, I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that.
You give it
it's
a
like,
shot.
It's like, it's
We'll
like
see.
Justice League, the high school years.
Right.
Let's see.
I think it's just kind of a silly concept, but it's probably going to do really well, just like all this other stuff.
Right.
All right. Any other comments?
No love for the animation?
So basically, what he's saying is that we focused on movies and comics and not on the animated series that are out there, such as Super Friends and Justice League Unlimited, and that really is a big, huge contribution. There's no doubt. There are scores of people that were raised on this stuff after school. The idea of seeing him on the screen.
That's a lot of what I saw. It was like when he fought Darkseid that they had several times, but a few of the times were definitely one of my favorite moments in the cartoon of it.
Yeah. So it's not to minimize the effect of the cartoons, but we also some people have to go to work in the morning.
So I will say this. That Superman has had a storied history in animation. It started with the Fleischer Studios animated films, but they were shown in movie theaters before features. Insanely influential. Many decades later, that style is what Bruce Timm took to make the Batman the Animated Series, which gave us this modern age of cartoons. But along the way, throughout the 60s and 70s, when you saw a Silver Age representation of Superman in Super Friends and he had amazing powers. He was this figure of optimism and hope, and a go-to for morals for kids. So we had that throughout. I mean, it's part of the background, and now let's see what happens to it in this darker age of grittier superheroes. These new films coming out, they're trying to tap into it a bit. I don't know how perfect of a fit that's going to be, or should be. Has it been perfected already with Superman the Animated Series? Are they going to get better than that? I don't know. Let's see. I think it's a challenge.
Yeah, I think some of the best
without
Superman,
underwear, especially.
some of the
not gonna
best
work.
Superman Batman moments are definitely in Justice League.
What was that red and blue Superman? Or they had
You mean all of them?
That was like no. When they split them in two, that was in the comics.
There were two different Superman.
That was in the comics.
That was right.
Yeah. Go ahead.
They originally had it in the They originally had it in the 60s. They had a story where it was like, okay, here's Superman, and here's okay, we're not just going to tell one Superman story. Here's Superman Red goes off and does this. Here's Superman Blue goes off and does this. And they even did a story where the Superman gained electrical powers in 1999, and
That's
eventually,
the one I'm thinking of.
right, yeah, they had glow in the dark cover, all that stuff, Superman 123, all the stuff, and they basically split him where eventually the electric one split into two characters, and in the 60s and 70s stuff, it was like, oh, the red one's bad and the blue one's good and whatever, and they had at least some takes on that. But as far as the 90s version, when a second Clark Kent shows up at the Daily Planet, they go, wait, you were just in this other room. Oh crap! He doesn't know he's not the real thing. So that was a kind of interesting introduction.
It was
where he
weird.
Like, you had to go over here and be Clark. You have to go over here and be Superman, so that we can't both be Clark at the same time. That's bad, or Superman. But it was an interesting take on
May I just
Superman
say,
Red, Blue.
It was super weird when it happened. I was a teenager. I didn't know what the hell was going on. And I still don't know what the hell went on and why they did that. I know it was a callback to some story from the 60s
right,
by
yeah,
Jerry
60s,
Siegel.
Right.
That was weird.
It was pretty bizarre. But
Like,
again,
they totally just did it. So,
Yeah.
again, for those people that are complaining too much about changes of Superman, at least he's not made of electricity
right,
and two dudes.
right.
All right. Any more last comment? Anyone else? All right. Well, that's our show, guys. Thanks for coming up against. We got Fawad Siddiqui, actor, improviser, down in the end. What you got? Anything coming up?
Oh, just performing in Miami. I just did some shows with Impromedy. It's a great improv troupe down in South Florida. And Vice City Improv did a show last night. And I'm going to be shooting an FPL, speaking of electricity, an FPL print ad on Tuesday. You might see me being a brown baker in a magazine. The auditions. I was on the season premiere of Graceland on USA. Check that out in reruns, and I'll get 0.005 cents maybe. Now I'm off.
Impressive exit. Very good.
And all right, that was a good exit. I can't even remember your name right now.
I understand. It's crazy. It's That was life changing.
What do you
over
got
at
going on?
over at Famous Faces and Funnies, we have next week on Saturday, July 5th, we're doing an event. It's our 3-year anniversary, or 2-year anniversary, as we start our 3rd year in this store in our bigger space. So that we jumped in with Get Your Fun On, the game store. And so we're having a big charity sale to help out a friend of ours. His sister's going through all sorts of health problems, so we're at least 10% and probably a healthy amount more than that will go towards charity, and all sorts of stuff on sale where the full amount of certain items will go entirely to charity to help out a friend in need. We're also doing Not a Comic-Con coming up on July 25th and 26th. And as Comic-Con's going on over in California, for those of us that millions of us can't make it there that would like to go, we have a Not a Comic-Con event where we have artists here drawing free sketches, and we'll have all sorts of cool promo stuff that DC sent us, and all sorts of other cool stuff going on. So again, we'll have a sale, some silly characters in costume, and just some other similar things you might see at a Comic-Con in a much smaller form in our store. So that's what's going on currently at Famous Faces.
All right. And then we got Brandon, who is with us. And Brandon, aren't you going camping?
Yes. Wasn't really going to bring that up, 'cause it's completely irrelevant to any of this. But yes, I'm actually going to be camping in the Smoky Mountains on July 11th through the 13th. So unfortunately, I won't be able to make it to that show if we decide to postpone. We haven't discussed that yet. But yep, I'll be doing that. Should be fun.
And I just want to point out, for the entirety of the show, there's been a guy who's been standing behind the cameras giving us the finger. And I didn't appreciate that.
Backup Dante is what we referred to him as
backup
last
Dante's
week.
giving us the finger the entire show. Not liking it. But thanks for watching, and that is a wrap.